Hello and welcome to Life Gun Cigar, and today we're going to do a disassembly of the Ruger Mark III, in this case a Mark III target model in stainless steel. And so first thing you want to do is you're going to make sure you have a safe weapon. So I just done that a minute ago, you have to take my word for it, and no magazine in the chamber, round's already clear, so it's already been fired. So, what are you going to need to take down your Ruger Mark III? Well, the first thing you're going to need, in my opinion and what I've found, is a paper clip. It's cheap, it's simple, it's easy. Or a mallet. Helps out a lot. A little piece of wooden dowel is what they suggest. You can use that. That's usually what I use. In this case, you could also use a plastic pen. Works just well. A pin punch works fine. PR needle nose pliers, if you need them later on, you can use them also. But the main things you're going to need is maybe a wooden dowel or a pen, the paper clip, and the mallet. So let's get started. So once you've made sure the weapon's safe, pull it in, pull the trigger. I've already done that. First thing you're going to do is you're going to try to remove the mainspring. So the easiest way to do that is take that magazine out, put it aside. You will need it, and particularly for the Mark III, you're going to need to pull the trigger to put the weapon back together at times and take it apart, so make sure there's no ammunition or any bullets anywhere near it. So take the mainspring housing out. There's a little groove right here, a little oval groove. You're going to use your paper clip or a piece of wire or whatever you have. You're going to slip it in there. You can even use your thumbnail if you want, if you have thumbnails. I really don't have nails. So flip that out, and then this will move freely. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull down so you can remove this little bolt here from the main bolt. So pull down, and that'll come out. Now, if yours sticks more, if you haven't taken it apart much, or you haven't shot it much, or you don't keep it well lubed, whatever the case may be, or you just have a particularly tight gun, and these are generally very tightly made firearms, then what you're going to do is you're going to use your little wooden dowel or a pen or such, and you're going to press down through that hole and push that out. That'll make your life a lot easier. So once you have that out, put that aside. You can then pull this back. Now, one thing to keep in mind is there's a little piece, I'm going to try to show it in here. There's a little piece of metal right in here. I don't know if you can see it. See if I can get it to move. All right, so it dropped down. That's the piece we're talking about right here. All right, and that part moves around. So that is important because you're going to need that. Let me show you what I need on those pliers. You're going to need that part in multiple points. You're going to need that down. So right now, make sure you can see, this is the part I'm talking about. Right now it's pretty easily moved. You can just hold it with the barrel up, which is what they suggest, and then you'll see it now. It's down here. So that's the piece. If that is down, it'll fall into this groove here, and it'll lock underneath. Sorry. It'll fall down and it'll lock underneath this pin right here. And if that happens, then you have pain. That's a pain to move. So then you got to put the magazine back in and rotate the gun back up with the barrel up. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear them talk in the manual about having a pistol with the barrel up. And that's to move this pin here. So with that pin up, you can then remove the bolt. Okay. Once that's out, you can then take it apart. You can pull this spring and this part out and clean it here. And you clean the firing pin. You can push this pin through and take out the extractor and clean that all out. Okay, it's not a whole lot to clean, and I generally don't take the, well, not the pin, sorry, the extractor. I usually don't take the extractor out. Your firing pin is right here. That's it right there, little square notch. And once you take that pin out, all that stuff will come out. So put that aside. For field stripping though, you won't need to do that. So we're going to put that aside. And now what we're left with is the lower part of the firearm and then the barrel and upper. So at times they're going to tell you to put the magazine back in or out. That's that little strut in there again, you can see. And what you're going to do, make sure that's down. And you're going to knock, this is where the rubber mallet comes in handy, you're going to knock this off of the handle and grip. Alright, so take your rubber mallet, and while you're on a soft surface with nothing around that's hard, just hit the back a little bit. And there you go. It'll fall right off. Now, that's held in place by, other than friction, by this locking lug here. Okay, and that locks into the lower part of the barrel, and that metal notch falls right into this metal notch right here, and so the lug falls into there, and that's how it goes together and comes apart. So to put it back together, you're going to do the same reverse, and then push back with the rubber mallet. So while it's apart, you can then take a brush and clean out the barrel and the receiver area, and if you so desire, you can take this down further and take out the chamber indicator. There's a pin here that holds it in. You won't need to do that very often though. I find that you can clean the gun pretty well without doing that every time, and I'm pretty inattentive. That's the chamber indicator right there. See if I can show you it moving. So, okay, so that's what you're going to basic breakdown is for the Ruger Mark III, and that's all they suggest you doing to it. They don't suggest going any further into disassembly for it. And personally, it's kind of a pain to take it down further than that, so I wouldn't do it often. Now, to reassemble, you're going to go in reverse, obviously. So, make sure this is flat. That's important. And you're going to drop this square lug into this square notch. Do it so you guys can see. Okay. And then push back. And what you're going to do is you're going to get, right now this is about even, and you want this a bit over. So take the rubber mallet and give it a good rasp rearward. And so now it overhangs by just a hair. And that's what you want. Not by much, just a bit. Okay, so that's locked in there pretty well. And what you're going to find is as you put the rest of the gun back together, you'll be fine. I know it doesn't sound like that's tough, but let me tell you something. It's in there. That's strong. It's not going anywhere. And what that's going to happen is this is going to, by going through, be the second point to lock the rear together. So they're going to tell you, you know, put the magazine in and tip it up and pull the trigger and take it back out and put it down. And that's all well and good. But really what you're trying to do is that square notch that I mentioned before when it was all apart is up. You just want to have that down. Okay? And that's just this part here. So it's up and it's down. Without that down and even, you cannot put the bolt back in. So the bolt's going to go back in with the spring up. And that goes back in. So that's pretty simple, as you can see. Now, here's where the fun comes in. Always keep track of this little spur, for lack of a better term, right here. Because you're going to need that in certain places to actually put it back together. So I'm going to leave that down like that. I'm going to put this in through that hole like when we took it out. Okay, so that's through. And that's where that is now. That spur is still in there. You can see it. That's it right in there. Okay. And they mention in the manual, and it's important here, that that is oriented just right. So take your magazine, again that's empty, put it into the firearm. Again, make sure there's no bullets or ammunition around and that your magazine is empty. This is not the time to have a discharge of the firearm. So with that bolt through there, tilt the barrel up. That's going to bring that spur down. You're going to tip this up while pressing up and in. And in doing so, you want to keep that spur in this middle part here. Okay? And while you're doing that, pull the trigger, because otherwise you can't get this done. So, trigger's down, magazine's in. Now you can rotate this up. And the trick, other than having that spur right there, the trick to knowing if you've got it right is when you go to push this in, you're going to feel resistance at the last bit. So you're going to push all the way in to here, and then when you go to put it in more, there's going to be a bit of spring to it. Okay? And push it in and it pops right back out. So if you don't have that, if you're going to put it right in and you can just swing it all the way in and then lock this, stop, back up, and double check that spur there. Because what you'll find is that spur will have fallen down to where it is right there. Okay, so that's where you don't want it. That's where you do want it. And with it up there, all the way against this back pin, you'll find that you cannot pull the bolt rearward and you will not be able to fire or function the firearm. So, again, make sure that's in the right spot. So, that's down. It's still pointed down. I'm trying to get it so you can see that spur in there. Let's see. You can kind of make it out just the edge of it. So again, while it's pointed up, and your fingers on the trigger holding it down, put this in. That'll have a little bit of spring tension. And while you're doing that, you can then push it in and flip that closed. Now you can let go of the trigger and you can test it. So pull the magazine out, or leave it in, doesn't really matter. Pull the bolt back. Now it pulls back and goes forward easily. And we're going to test fire it, make sure it all functions. Magazine seated. Bolt back, forward, point in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and it fires. So that's all you need to do to take down and reassemble the Ruger Mark III. And if you have any problems, feel free to send me a message. Thanks for watching.